Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Zoom presentation. We began this year with Mission in Action, Service with a Purpose. Today will be the St. Maximilian Kolbe Prison Ministry, as well as St. Jean Jugan Ministry to Elders. Today, myself and Patsy will be offering the presentations of our two ministries. Can you go next slide? So today you'll hear a little bit of our history, some of the challenges that we have as a ministry, our future vision, some things that are going on, and then how to support our two ministries. And there's our profiles in case you don't know what we look like. Me and Patsy, and then our contact information. So if you have any questions that you don't get a chance to ask today, please feel free to send us an email. Let us know what those questions are. So, as you know, our Catholic Community Services has its mission in action, service with a purpose. I like to call this being doers of the word, the doers of the gospel of Jesus. Mission in action, again, focuses on uniting our ministry efforts to enhance community and parish engagement, ensure we effectively serve the specific needs of each parish. Our goal is to support the most vulnerable, foster meaningful relationships, and strengthen our presence within the community. Again, St. Maximilian Kolbe Prison Ministry and St. Jean Jugan Ministry with Elders encompasses all things, connecting parishes and making our Catholic Community Services being the feet and the hands of the diocese going out and doing these services. So the first ministry we're going to speak about is my ministry, St. Maximilian Kolbe Prison Ministry. So just a little bit of history about the prison ministry. This started way back in 1989. It started at the Pima County Jail, initially with just 3 services going on, offering services to men, probably community service or visitation to the men at the county jail. And then slowly this expanded. I guess it started to be a good thing. So we expanded to include the juveniles, the juvenile facility in these services, going out and visiting them. And then eventually we moved on to the state prison, and then other areas where detention centers or prisons developed. So now where we're at today is we serve, if not all, 99% of all the prisons, jails, detention centers in Tucson, Douglas, Florence, Yuma, and the surrounding areas. So within the Diocese of Tucson, there are 9 state prisons. 3 of them are run. When I say state prison, these are prisons that house Arizona inmates. So there's 3 private prisons that house Arizona inmates, and those 3 are located in Eloy. So there's those state prisons, and then we have 4 private detention centers that house ICE and U.S. Marshal detainees. Then we also have about 8 jails, excuse me, 8 jails located within the diocese. Just real quick, so you have an understanding of the jail and the prison. So a jail or detention center are basically the same. They're places where people go if they've been arrested or charged with a crime. They end up in a jail or detention center, and then their case is adjudicated. So they'll either have an outcome of being sentenced to prison or probation or something else. So the population in a jail is a little bit more uncertain. They're not sure what's going to happen. Guess you might say there's a little bit of hope that they won't be going to jail, to prison. I mean, now prison is a place where once you're sentenced and you're going to serve out your time in prison. So people who are in prison know they're going to be there. They know how long they're going to be there. It could be anywhere from a couple of years to 20, 40, sometimes for life in prison. But they know what that sentence is. With the detention centers of ICE detainees, we have populations that come from Central America, Europe, Asia, Africa. We've also, my last visit over there last week, we had several men from India few men from China, Jamaica, and different places. It's quite a variety of cultures that are housed at the ICE Detention Center in Eloy. Which poses a challenge for volunteers because of the different languages that are spoken in these detention centers. Our volunteers are versed in Spanish and English. That's our limitation. We don't really have any volunteers that speak any other language besides that. So our services are either done in Spanish, or if we have people who only speak English, we'll offer a bilingual service so that as many people as possible can be involved in the service. I've had occasion where there was actually a man from China who didn't speak English or Spanish. He was Catholic, and he had a prayer book in Chinese, and he was able to follow the format of the service because it's always the same. And he always received communion, but he didn't understand what was going on, but he was able to follow the service. The numbers I have are 20. These are estimated within the diocese of Tucson. The state prisons can house up to 42,000 men. So within that, about 20,000 or so are incarcerated in the diocese of Tucson. Within the diocese of Tucson, about roughly 5,000 of those might proclaim to be Catholic as they enter the prison. There's also an additional 5,000 that could be counted that are located in the detention centers in the jails located within the diocese. So as far as
Deacon Mike, it's Laura. Can you put your microphone close to your mouth, please?
Sure. So as far as staff goes, we have one full staff, yours truly, and we have about 42 volunteers, which includes about 4 priests and 7 deacons who are participating in this ministry. And again, most of them are lay ministers. We provide roughly 33 services, which include Mass, community service, pastoral visits, sacramental preparation in the different facilities throughout the diocese. And again, estimated about 400 incarcerated individuals participate in all these services on a weekly basis. Some of them are repeat because again they're in prison, so they're coming every week. But I think that's a pretty good number of individuals to be able to reach in these facilities, and I think it really helps make a difference for them, especially to know that the community has not forgotten them, that to reach out to them, and that we're supporting them in any way that we can. Current challenges, well, as anybody can attest in any ministry or agency you have, funding is always a challenge. Our program is funded through the annual Catholic Appeal. So through the generosity of the people who donate money through the annual Catholic Appeal, we really appreciate that. So I believe our budget, I'm not sure if this covers both ministries, I think it does, it's about $128,000. We also have small grants. The Catholic Foundation, we've been able to receive grants from the Catholic Foundation, which we support men who are coming out of prison, men and women coming out of prison, to help pay for 1 month of transitional housing as they get on their feet and find other income. And we also have small contracts with the private prison, so they pay us a stipend of about $70 for each 1-hour service that we provide. And that brings in about $25,000 to $30,000 a year for our ministry, which again helps support supplies of paying for gas and cars to drive out to the different locations. As far as training and maintaining volunteers, let me start with the second bullet point. All volunteers to begin prison ministry, and this is a central office to begin prison ministry. Most parishes don't have their own prison ministry, so they come under Catholic Community Services. To begin the prison ministry, all individuals first have to go through the background clearance process of the diocese at their own parish. So that has to be taken care of before anything else can happen. And once that is done, then we have a meeting and we'll talk to them about what their interests are, location, and what they're able to do. So once we decide which facility they're going to be able to volunteer, they want to volunteer,
Yeah.
then we'll arrange for them to attend a volunteer orientation or training. Each facility has their own volunteer training procedure. So, for example, I had to go through volunteer training and get a clearance from the county jail. I got one from the state prison. I got one from the juvenile detention center. I got one for the core civic prisons, and even the federal prison has their own. So depending on which facility that person wants to go, we'll set them up for the orientation there. A couple of our volunteers are cleared at two different facilities, which is very helpful. As far as recruiting is always a challenge, especially right now. We really need bilingual volunteers. The dynamics of the population of the prison has changed over the course of years, where it was a lot of times it was mostly an English service, but I'm noticing that there's more and more Spanish-speaking people who are part of the population in the prisons or the jails. So the challenge is always to be able to reach as many people as possible. So again, a lot of our volunteers are bilingual, but several are not, and so they're kind of limited on some of the populations that we can serve. So we're constantly recruiting bilingual volunteers. I need to go back up to where it says training and maintaining. Since most of our ministers are in their 70s, I'm 62 years old, and I'm at the younger edge of the volunteers who go into the prison. Probably because a lot of services are during the day, so people who are retired have more time to do that, and so people are retired are obviously in their 60s or 70s. So finding younger volunteers is always a challenge, especially and we're in need of volunteers to work with juveniles, somebody that's I think maybe a little closer to their age. As I said, right now, I'm one of the volunteers that works with juveniles, and I'm the youngest of the three that go in there. So that's always a challenge to find those young people to help us with prison ministry. Also, priests and deacons, with our limited amount of priests and they're being overwhelmed with parish responsibilities. It's very difficult to get a commitment from a priest to go in on a weekly basis to a prison. It's very time consuming to do that with. So figuring out creative ways that we can have a priest, cleared, and then as often as working with their schedule, have the often as possible, get them into the prison so that they can especially celebrate the sacrament of reconciliation, which many inmates are asking for. Deacons as well, as I said, we have 7 deacons in the ministry. Again, deacons are usually working, and they have several different ministries in their own parish. So kind of find there's a time constraint, but kind of matching that time and availability and working with schedules to see if we can get them in again on a weekly or monthly basis to help with services. The way we recruit is I'll usually contact the pastor of the parish and see if we can put in an announcement in the bulletin, explaining the ministry, asking for volunteers, and if possible to go out to that parish, set up a meeting and go out to the parish and talk to possible volunteers. We've done that a couple times in Casa Grande and Leroy. And also working with the diocese in the New Vision, with a couple different articles that come out, and every time one comes out, then we make a push for new volunteers to join us. So volunteers are necessary not only here in Tucson but in the surrounding communities of our diocese. As far as re-entry services, unfortunately, we don't have a big re-entry services. Again, the only reentry service I have is assisting people coming out of prison with their rent for their transitional housing. And then a little bit of follow after that. It's hard to keep track of them because again, once they get out, they get a job, they're very busy, and it's hard to kind of meet on a consistent basis. Many years ago, we had a mentoring program where we were able to work with inmates who were 6 months out of leaving the prison. We had a couple volunteers would go in and work on the curriculum with them, and then with permission to continue that working with those people who came out of prison on that curriculum and helping them get settled in, get employment, and apply for the benefits they were qualified to receive. We don't have that right now. We don't have the resources or staff right now for a good reentry program, but hopefully that's something that we can do in the future. Key opportunities vision. I just wanted to point out a couple of things that we're really able to be successful in, and that will that have opened the doors for other things. The first one is our REC, which is a Residents Encounter Christ Retreat. We just completed that a couple of weeks ago in the state prison here in Tucson. 3-day retreat with the first day theme being Dying with Christ. The second day is Rising with Christ. And the third day is ascending, going forward and putting into action what we learned through that 3-day retreat. We had about 22 participants in that retreat, so it was quite successful. We had a lot of support from the state chaplain and from the deputy wardens to get that. They're very excited about it, and everything went smoothly, I think, mainly because they were able to work with us, especially getting people cleared, getting us into the prison and back to the program room where we needed to go every day. So we were very excited about that. We had a team of about 15 volunteers who made this retreat a success. So our next one right now is planned for next January. Again, it'll be a 3-day retreat here at the state prison. We're looking for more inmates to participate, and we're probably also going to need more bilingual volunteers because we had several who only spoke Spanish in this retreat, so we had to adjust some of our programming. The second thing is the Get on the Bus. This program has started in California, where United Kids with their parents, and it's a big operation in California. It's going on for 10, 15 years there. It moved over to Phoenix, where they're uniting kids with their mothers in the women's state prison in Perryville. And I've been able to assist them with driving families up to Tucson, to the parish up there, and then taking them to the prison to visit their mothers in that prison. So here in Tucson, we had 8 families, the children of 8 families participate. So the very first time here in Tucson, eight families were able to visit their fathers, and I put down there was a couple of adult children. They're in their 20s, but they hadn't been able to see their father and not a physical visit in many years. They can talk to him on the phone and stuff, but they didn't have a physical visit with him. So this is very exciting for them, and again, a real success. Our next one is planned for June of this year, the Friday before Father's Day. And we're looking at filling, we're probably looking maybe 20, 30 families, including some families who will be filling out units. The third thing is death row. The state prison has decided the last few months to send those people who are on death row to move them out of that confined facility, move them here to Tucson at our recon unit. So there's kind of an open yard, so they have the ability to move around way more than they ever did when they were in Florence. So there's about 50 or so who are transferred here to Tucson. There's 111 men, 111 people on death row. 3 of them are women. So there's still a few left at Iman in Florence. And these are people who need to stay in a very secure environment. But again, we have about 50 men or so here and more coming. And there's about 4 who attend our service on a weekly basis. We've been offering services for them for about 2 months or so. So it's exciting for them to be able to do that. And I don't know, some of you may or may not know that Arizona again is seeking to resume its executions after about a 2-year hiatus. So we're going to be paying attention to that, and hopefully, do some advocacy and try to work with legislator or somebody to maybe not go forward with that. So we'll be working on that as well. And how can you support us? Well, we can always use money. You can donations to the diocese. We have the tax credit donations that come in. I just received one this morning for about $150. The other thing that we're always in need of is soft-covered Bibles, the New American Bible, New American Revised, whatever it is, and the Spanish Bible, Dios habla hoy. Those are very useful, especially Spanish. So it's hard to keep up with the Spanish demand for Spanish Bible. So any donations in that way are very, very helpful. Also, we have some families who make rosaries for us, and so they make them not only for myself but for Patsy's program, Jugan. And some of them, we can't use them all depending on what they're made out of, but some of them we can, and we take them to the prison and share them as often as we can there. So I usually buy the breakaway rosaries from Autumn because those are the easiest ones to get into the prison. Volunteer opportunities. Again, if anybody's interested, anyone would like to know more, there are volunteer opportunities here in Tucson, the county jail, the state prison, and every so often at the federal prison here. Again, volunteer always needed in Eloy, Douglas, Yuma, and we're also working on getting some people in Cologne. As far as policy advocacy, again, it's related to the death penalty. And see where the legislature goes on that, or where the governor goes with that, if they move forward with it, and see if there's anything that we can do to just kind of help persuade them to not receive the death penalty. That's it. So I don't know if there's any questions before we move on to Patsy's ministry.
I'll go ahead and start, and then we will leave time at the end for questions for both Deacon Mike and myself. So I am Patsy Klein. I am the coordinator for the St. Jean Jugan Ministry with Elders. I don't know if my picture is showing up on the screen, Laura. Hopefully you can help me with that. Just to make clear, the St. Jugan Ministry is a pastoral care ministry. And pastoral care ministry is that we provide spiritual and emotional support to individuals in the various parishes of the Diocese of Tucson. And the goal is helping people to navigate life challenges and grow in their faith, drawing from religious teachings and practices to offer comfort and support during difficult times. So the first 30 years of pastoral care was actually an office of the Diocese of Tucson. Father Angelo and Sister Carolyn, who were almost the 30 years providing the service to 27 nursing homes where they would visit every month, providing a mass, and Sister was known for taking her guitar and singing. At the time of their medical retirement, then Bishop Kikanas and then CEO Peg Harmon did a survey of the churches here in Tucson primarily with regards to pastoral care, looking at homebound ministry and nursing home, to seeing if the needs were being met or if they needed assistance, and if they needed assistance, in what fashion. From that survey, 2014, the service became part of Catholic Community Services and was renamed St. Jean Jugan Ministry after St. Jugan, who was viewed as the first individual to provide nursing home care. And we're talking back into the 1500s. We work in partnership with the various churches, the various parishes in the Diocese of Tucson, and I coordinate mass or communion visits for homebound nursing home residents and hospital and hospice patients. So individuals will either call into my office or they will call the churches looking to see if somebody can come to provide the communion visits or a service. And so I will work with the church that is being called as well as the facility to see how we can meet the need for the Catholic individuals at the facilities. The other thing that we do is we provide training workshops for the different churches for the extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion, as well as advanced care planning and Catholic teaching. Extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion are the individuals, lay ministers, who have been trained and designated, commissioned to take Holy Communion from church to the facilities to provide to the individuals who, for whatever reason, primarily age and illness, cannot come to church anymore to receive communion. This became extremely important right after the pandemic, because when we reopened our churches and the different nursing homes and hospitals were open once again to visits, we lost a great number of the volunteers. Now, it's not to say that these all individuals died because of the pandemic. Like the Colby ministry, most of our folks are elderly, they're retired. During pandemic, they obviously could not come in, but a lot of the families, adult children, realized just how far their parents were. And so they started helping parents to move closer to them, just with the idea that they knew eventually mom and dad were going to need assistance. We also had individuals that were still with a fear with regards to the pandemic, since it had been such a drastic time in that everything was closed and we didn't have access to our churches or into the hospitals. So providing the workshops laid a new groundwork where I went in and I provided all of the foundations, the protocols and guidelines that the diocese provides, as well as the books needed for the ministries. And then the individual churches picked it up from there to provide that particular component that pertained to their church. We primarily work with the sick, the elderly, and their families in the community of the Diocese of Tucson. So it's not just Tucson, but we're up in Yuma, and we were in Payson a couple of months ago, down to Nogales, Wilcox, just about everywhere. And when you're speaking about the elderly, it's not just the elderly, but their families as well, because generally it's the families that will communicate to us saying that they would like the communion visits. So I am the coordinator for the ministry. I am the one and only staff member for this particular St. Jugan Ministry. And the volunteers are not my volunteers, but they are the volunteers from the churches. So that is why I work with the churches. It is through the churches that they get their diocese clearance. I guide them with the introductions at the nursing homes, and they will directly with the nursing homes do a little bit of paperwork that some of them require for them to actually be able to go in. So funding and current challenges. I am supported by the annual Catholic appeal. Our work is primarily donation driven. I do have to give great thanks for a blessing that the Jugan Ministry received from the Haley Family Foundation. We were granted a 5-year grant, which is a huge blessing that has provided me with funds to be able to expand the training workshops and traveling out to the churches beyond Tucson. So that is where that comes from. And then the Catholic Foundation has also provided me with funds, which helps me to do the convocation, annual convocation, which is held in July, and also helps me to purchase the liturgical items, which I gift to the individuals in the nursing homes. So those would be the rosaries, prayer cards, the reflection books for Advent, Lent, and Easter. Our challenges have been that in the nursing homes, COVID-19 still has re-lockdowns that happen. Granted, they're for shorter periods of time, and they are not as often. Actually, this past couple of months, it has been high strains of flu that have closed some of the nursing homes so that we aren't able to get in. The hospitals back, I want to say a year and a half ago, I had 9 hospital sites in Tucson and immediate surrounding areas, which would be up in the Marana Oro Valley area and Sahuarita, that did not have a Catholic presence. So there was not a Catholic chaplain. There were no Catholic extraordinary ministers to provide communion. None of that was existing. I have worked fast and furiously with many individuals, and I'm thankful to say that we are down to the 5 sites where we actually have a Catholic presence in those hospitals. Something that is very, very important when someone is ill. Faith is what gives hope and strength. Our volunteers are still slowly returning to the churches. And a lot of them, they are choosing to do the ministry work that's within the church, helping out at masses, doing the St. Vincent de Paul. Some people still worry about going into a hospital setting or even into the nursing home setting. And that has been something consistent for a while now. So some of the key opportunities in the vision that I see with regards to the Jugan Ministry is that we continue to receive invitations from the parish priests themselves to provide training workshops. When I first started, I was the one making the phone calls, sending out letters and emails to the different priests, offering the services of the workshops. I now have the priest or their staff calling me. Last week, we just happened to be down in Tubac at St. Anne's at their invitation. In November, we were up in Payson. So it's wonderful that these invitations now come from the parish priests, and they recognize the efforts and the work that we put towards training the individuals. I continue working with hospital administration to provide that Catholic presence in the form of extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion. We still have a couple of very large key hospitals here in town that do not have that presence, and I'm still trying to decipher what it is that is creating either a misunderstanding or some type of a block in order for individuals to be able to go into the hospitals. Something that needs to be clarified is volunteers, even though they're cleared through our diocese and they go through their clearance within the churches, the hospitals have their own set of clearance protocols that individuals must go through to be listed as a volunteer in a hospital. And you are a volunteer if you are going to the various patient rooms to provide communion visits. Another key opportunity is that the Jugan Ministry is a recognized resource by many of the parishes in the diocese. So in addition to the calls that I receive with regards to requesting someone take communion to someone, I get calls with regards to funeral assistance, to Catholic funeral protocols, assistance with utilities or rent, sometimes bereavement, if we provide it or where I can send someone, many of our churches do have bereavement groups. Sometimes it's someone that's just needing a listening ear. But the churches now will call my office, and that's why the Jugan Ministry became an outreach component for Catholic services, Catholic community services as a whole, because I would also refer individuals to the various offices within Catholic community services. So my vision, I have big eyes, big dreams, big hopes for the ministry. I want to continue growing this ministry. I came in at the uh, just after the second year of it being established within Catholic Community Services, and it has expanded beyond what it originally was. And I'm very thankful for those individuals who started the Jugan Ministry with elders. They gave me a good foundation to build upon. By growing the ministry, I want to bring in more lay ministers. I want to be able to provide more information with regards to advanced care planning in Catholic teaching. I also, through the annual convocation that we provide in July, I bring in key speakers who provide information not only on spiritual growth, but in the ministries that they themselves assist in. So that will continue to grow. I want to help the parishes to recruit and retain their volunteers when possible. I would like to see, some younger volunteers coming in. And by younger, I mean in their 40s, 50s, before retirement. I know that everybody is working, but there are opportunities where they can do these visits on the weekend. And I also would like to have a priest once again as part of our ministry. When I first started, we had Father John Emanuel, God rest his soul, who was a priest that worked with me uh, doing the communion visits. He would also go out when there was an request because someone was dying. And he would go out to do the anointing and administer viaticum, which is the last sacrament given to a person that is dying. It's a special communion. It is considered the food for the journey, and then the prayers for the dying. Father Emmanuel had to medically retire. It happened right before the pandemic. And since then, we have not had the money or a priest that has been able to come back to the ministry. So it is something that is still near and dear in my heart. It's a wish. I know it's a large wish, but I see it more as a goal than a wish. So I keep putting things to paper because they say when you put it to paper that goal becomes an action plan. And how can you support me? How can you support our ministry? So we are completely dependent on donations, both financially and in kind goods such as rosaries. And for me, even the grants that do come in, people are donating to those grant facility foundations, like the Annual Catholic Appeal and Catholic Foundation and such. So anytime an opportunity comes up, I know we each have our own organizations and we have our own uh, concerns that organizations that we choose to assist. I ask if you would please consider St. Jugan Ministry. The one thing I can tell you all that is guaranteed is death. And so as people are aging and our longevity gets longer and longer, people are looking forward to us to provide them continued pastoral care in the sense of prayer, of communion, and for families, guidance and comfort. As a volunteer, I ask you to volunteer in your parishes. Now, if you are Catholic, you would go to the churches, but there are many, many, many churches of all denominations that have volunteers, and these volunteers are in bereavement groups, they are with food banks, they are listening ears, all, teachers of the faith. And so I ask that you let family and friends know at your churches about this particular ministry, but also see with regards to how they can participate within their own churches. So our mission in action. continued growth of our ministries, not just the Jugan Ministry, but also the Colby Ministry. We want to be able to put our Catholic teachings and our missions in action, boots on the ground, as they say, reaching out to the different people. We are extending our populations that go beyond our current ministries. Just a reminder that in November, right before our Thanksgiving holiday, Catholic Community Services was recognized by the Northwest Tucson Multi-Faith Fellowship for our work in serving the hungry, the needing, and the stranger with love and compassion. And so I have stayed in touch with Father Miguel, who oversees the multi-faith, the ecumenical office for the Diocese of Tucson. So it goes beyond we are good Catholics, we are good Christians, we are good people. We choose to all hopefully live by the golden rule. And then I also am working to do cross-program coordination with our CCS programs. So I have collected wonderful brochures, pamphlets that I'm able to distribute at different information tables that we set up within our Tucson community. And, I can send them out to individuals as well. But I also like it that I get calls from some of the managers and staff in our various CCS program offices asking me for information or asking for resource or reference that they could help a client with. And sometimes it's even something that I myself am able to provide. So at this point, I'll go ahead and open it to questions that people might have for either Deacon Mike or myself. So there was a question here from Sophia that the volume went down. Did anyone else have this issue? Oh, I'm sorry. That was with Deacon Mike. Okay. Sorry about that. I guess we need to get him a new microphone. Is there any questions with regards to either prison ministry or the ministry with the elderly? There's something very different from what our regular offices do. And the service that we provide is spiritual, prayerful, comfort. Once in a while, it is the actual tangible items such as assistance with rent or liturgical items. So it may be a little bit different from what anybody else does.
I mainly want to say thank you for your work. This is Elena Dotrema. I think it's wonderful to hear both of you and what you're doing right on the field and, right there. So I wanted to thank you both.
Thank you. So you've heard our work in our ministry. So you are now our public service announcements. Go out and announce.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good day.
Blessings to everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Have a good weekend.